All right, so let's dive into something a little eerie. We're talking UFOs, hidden government stuff, and searching for the truth. We're going all the way to the California desert for this one. You sent over some pretty wild firsthand stories and some official reports from Project Bluebook. And for anyone listening who might not know, that was an actual U.S. Air Force program. It was dedicated to investigating UFO reports. And we're not talking about fuzzy pictures or shaky videos here. This is way more than that.
Yeah, and what's really interesting right off the bat is that all your sources are about one event. It happened in Desert Springs, California, and even the experienced Air Force guys were stumped.
Okay, so try to imagine this. A screenwriter and his agent, along with a couple assistants, they decide to take a tram up a mountain in Desert Springs for dinner. That sounds pretty nice, right?
Yeah, totally. Until they're heading back down and their tram just stalks. Power goes out, total silence, super creepy. That alone would freak anyone out. But then it gets really weird.
Out of nowhere, this huge silent thing appears. It's got these bright lights, almost blinding, and it starts following their tram down the mountain. It's like they're being watched and chased.
It's wild, too, when you think about who these people are. They're a screenwriter and an agent. They write stories for a living, and suddenly they're in a real-life UFO thing. It sounds like a movie, doesn't it?
They were actually hesitant to report it at first because of that.
Right. It's like they were worried about it becoming too real, like they'd be laughed at or not taken seriously. But they did eventually record it, and that's how Project Bluebook got involved.
Right, and in come Major Jake Catlin and Sergeant Harry Fitz, two Air Force investigators. Their job is to figure this whole thing out. And they were really thorough. They documented everything. First, they talked to the witnesses, and their stories all match up perfectly. All very believable.
And get this, it wasn't only the people on the tram. The bartender at the restaurant up on the mountain saw the weird craft too. So that definitely adds to it. But then it gets even weirder. The tram operator, Ray Lucas, he just quits and vanishes. No one knows where he went. Like, he saw something so messed up that he couldn't handle going back. His disappearing just makes the whole thing even more suspicious.
Right, and as if that wasn't enough, the investigators found evidence at the tram station. A cracked window, a scorched roof, fresh paint that looks like it was done in a hurry.
Yeah.
It's like someone was trying to hide something.
This wasn't just stories either. There were real signs that something strange happened at the tram station. They even went and interviewed some locals. There was a Native American tribal leader. He told them an old legend about lights in the sky over the mountain.
So we've got multiple witnesses, physical signs, even local legends that support the story. Sounds like a lot pointing to an actual UFO encounter.
Absolutely. But get this. Despite everything, the Air Force says the case is inconclusive. Can you imagine how frustrated those witnesses must have been? They went through something wild, something that really messed with them, and it's basically just ignored. Yeah, it's like what a lot of UFO people call official silence. Like, there's this rule, you're not supposed to talk about anything that doesn't make sense. You know, anything that changes how we see the world.
It really makes you wonder if a case like this, with so many witnesses and evidence, is inconclusive. What does it take to actually prove something? Are they making it impossible on purpose so that most of these cases stay unexplained?
Yeah, and this isn't the only time. Think about how many times you hear about them saying it's just weather balloons or mistaken planes or even everyone just imagining things. It's like they don't want to admit that something we don't understand could be in our skies.
But here's the thing. Even with all this official silence, things are starting to change. Lately, there's been this push for them to be more open about UFOs. Governments all over are starting to release secret documents about sightings.
Right, it's like we're finally getting little pieces of information, stuff that's been hidden for years. And some of these documents are really something. They talk about encounters that military people and pilots have reported. And these are people who know what they're looking at. They can tell the difference between a normal plane and something totally weird.
Yeah, I remember reading about Navy pilots who saw all these unidentified things. It was off the coast of California. They tracked them on radar, even got it on video. And it proved these things could fly in ways we don't even understand.
Exactly. And these are reliable people. They're not making stuff up. And there's data to back it up. Radar readings and sensor logs. It's getting hard to say these are just hoaxes or mistakes.
And getting back to Desert Springs,
Huh.
the screenwriter, Mike Kirby, he didn't just forget about what happened. It really got to him, so he decided to write a movie script about it, a UFO movie.
That's so interesting. It shows how these things can make people creative. They want to express what they saw through art, through telling a story. But Kirby ran into a problem that a lot of people who talk about UFOs face. People wanted him to make the story more exciting, more dramatic.
He wanted to keep it real, though. to show the actual fear and confusion they felt that night. But you know how Hollywood is. They often care more about making money than being accurate. They want to turn everything into a big, flashy movie.
Right, they wanted to add all the usual stuff. Aliens in bikinis, spaceships, shooting lasers, the whole thing. It's like a constant fight between people who want to show UFOs in a realistic way and those who just want to use the mystery to make money.
But Kirby really wanted to protect what happened to him. He didn't want them to change it. It's like he felt responsible for telling the truth, even if it meant losing a big Hollywood paycheck.
That's pretty impressive. And speaking of protecting the truth, that missing tram operator, Ray Lucas, he shows up again. He says he saw the UFO that night. It was so intense that he quit his job and started drinking again.
Wow. Imagine seeing something that just doesn't make sense. Something that totally changes how you see the world. It's no surprise he felt like he had to change his whole life.
The Air Force guys eventually found him. He was living in a remote place, and you could tell he was really messed up by what he saw. He kept saying he saw something amazing, but he was scared people would think he was just a crazy old drunk who was seeing things.
That's really sad. It shows how much stigma there is around UFOs. People are afraid to talk about it because they think they'll be made fun of,
Yeah.
or judged, or not believed. They worry about their reputation, being called crazy or delusional.
Yeah, it's true. And this fear of being rejected can really hurt the search for truth. How many people have seen something unexplainable, but kept it to themselves because they were afraid of what people would think?
It's like we're in this world where the biggest mysteries are hidden, not by the government, but by our own fear of being judged, of being seen as different.
It makes you wonder, how many incredible stories are out there just waiting for people to feel safe enough to share them?
Yeah, it's like you can't win. The more we want to know about UFOs, the more we shut down the people who might actually have answers. It's like we're stopping ourselves from figuring out one of the biggest mysteries ever.
It's a weird thing, yeah. We're totally fascinated by the idea of aliens, but then we make fun of or dismiss anyone who says they've actually seen one. We want to be curious, but also skeptical, but sometimes that skepticism goes too far.
And Kirby, that screenwriter, he walked away from that movie deal. He didn't want his story to be twisted and exaggerated.
That took guts, especially in Hollywood. They usually care more about money than the truth.
It shows how much he believed in what happened to him. He wanted to protect the truth, even when they were offering him fame and fortune.
It reminds us that the most important stories are the ones that don't fit into neat little boxes, the ones that make us question everything we think we know.
So where does that leave us? We've got these compelling stories from people we can trust. Physical evidence that hints at something really unusual. And more, secret documents coming out. It all suggests that the government's been hiding stuff about UFOs for a long time.
It feels like things are changing, like we're finally going to start talking about UFOs seriously, not just as a fringe thing. As more information comes out, as more people feel like they can share their stories, it's going to be harder and harder to ignore all of this.
Maybe one day they'll go back and look at those inconclusive cases. They'll look at them with fresh eyes, with new evidence and a more open mind. And maybe what they used to call fantasy will turn out to be a real part of our world.
And then there's the big question. What if we're not alone in the universe? How would that change how we see ourselves, our place in everything? What does it even mean to be human if there are other intelligent beings out there?
It's kind of crazy to think about. That space could be full of other worlds, other civilizations.
It makes you realize we might not be as special as we think we are.
And maybe that's the most important thing here. Looking for UFOs isn't just about spotting weird lights. It's about pushing the limits of what we know, about questioning everything and realizing there's still so much we don't know, about the universe and our place in it.
Right, we got to be curious and skeptical at the same time. Be open to the possibility that the truth might be way stranger than anything we could imagine.
So keep looking up, keep asking questions, and never lose that sense of wonder. Who knows what's out there waiting to be discovered? Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll see you next time.